All right, we're rolling live from the wasteland. This is Freedom Phil. What's the topic? I just want to throw this out there. Similar to what you saw after the cold takeover of so many countries via the Soviets, you kind of see something quite similar in America right now. Yeah. Remove the intelligent people, remove the truth, and replace it with the propaganda. Eliminate those who can think to easily control those who will accept anything. Where am I going with this? Freedom Phil, like, subscribe. Let's get into it and always turn up the video speed. Why do I always say that? Because, dude, you can think far faster than you believe. Turn up the speed, start listening to things faster, get more information every day. When I upload this, you'll be listening at least 1.75. Let's get into it. By the way, like and subscribe. A common thread that you would see when dictatorships take over is they at first use the rebels and the people, the pissed off poor masses. And like I said earlier in the food bank video, if you don't have food, you have poor, hungry people that have children to feed. You have riots and rebellion. And who is better for that than the uneducated? And when I say uneducated, I should really say not a matter of college education, but just the unskilled and underpaid, or appropriately paid if you never did anything but yourself. These people on the lower ends of society inevitably end up being the people that you use as your cannon fodder for your rebellions. These people are useful, and they're more easily manipulated than someone that has options. You see, it doesn't matter whether you have a high IQ. If you have incredible skills, high IQ can allow you to do more of your skills. But if you have useful skills, or maybe let's say your family had farmland or a business, something, you could actually effectively rise above your current situation. As for the majority of the common-borns, frankly, they're just good at doing what repetitive function they've constantly always done. And so, in the situation where you want to manipulate a large amount of people, first you start by telling everybody about social inequality. Inequality without responsibility for your situation. No, it's not your fault for the choices you've made to be where you're at. It's somebody else. It's that other group of people. And in America today, generally you'll hear people still bellowing about white supremacy and all this nonsense. And you're like, well, what about the person choosing whether they choose to be married or have children after they have a house paid off? Like what I just said there with the house paid off thing, most responsible people don't do that. Most people's responsibility is at least getting a decent job, and she has a decent job, and hopefully they can make their mortgage. No, what I've said is radical. Like it's responsibility taken to a level where you're actually, hitting God tier at a young age. And it's not complicated. Anybody can do it. I was a trucker and I could do it. But when you take away the ability to have conversation, intelligent conversation, where you can point out, and most people, you might think a lot of people are idiots. It's not that they're idiots. They're just, a lot of people are lazy. And if you teach them and get them skilled enough, they'll be functional, more than functional. But if you can eliminate the conversation from ever happening, then you've eliminated your potential opposition. And one of the things I find funny about a lot of the socialists is all throughout the course of time, if you look into the history of a lot of these, infamous people, their revolution, by the way, like and subscribe, their revolution was led by rich kids that weren't the top rich kids. So it's one rich kid gathering up a group of people, that other person has more than us. LARPing like they actually are part of it. Go and look into it. Most of them were rich kids. And this is what's interesting. I think Stalin wasn't actually a rich kid. Stalin was a brutal, revolutionary fighter. For what he was doing, he was brutally effective. And that's why a lot of the Soviet socialist rich kids on their side actually feared him. And then it came down to an thing of ideas. You had the Trotskyites, and you had the Stalin people. You had different groups. Well, at the end of the day, if you kill off all the intelligent people that can challenge your ideas, prevent the people from hearing them, like basically you make it verboten. You make it forbidden to hear these very ideas. Well, then what ends up happening is that you don't have to fight your opposition because you've intellectually neutered your opposition. Now, people say that's pretty graphic, that's pretty brutal. But don't we see that today? Only now, in a sense that now people are starting to have the conversation, like guys like Steven Crowder, formerly Charlie Kirk. People are now starting to have the conversation. There was a good 10 years where, and it still is this way, if we're being honest about it, on any sort of university campus. A lot of businesses, the best thing to do is just don't talk about your politics unless it's the prevailing politics. And you're better off as a conservative lying to people, pulling a Muslim move, lying to people and telling them simply what they want to hear. Because unless you're free enough, unless you have enough, unless you worked hard, lived minimalistically to where you actually outright own your house and have enough money to self-fund yourself, effectively whoever has that ability to get your check has your freedom of speech under lock and key. So many people that are conservative generally know this. As a libertarian, laid back, old school libertarian, not this new social communist libertarian bullshit they try to fake LARP as. Let me tell you what those people are. By the way, I'd like to describe. They are literally just a bunch of motherfuckers who just want to get a check from the government and have nobody question about doing their drugs. I want to do the wild, craziest shit. I'm totally libertarian. No, you're not libertarian. You're just a fucking drug addict who likes getting welfare checks. Social libertarianism, man. Libertarianism is generally, hey, less government, less control over my life. I'm more or less a menarchist, to be honest. Minimal government. I need some government, but not much. Now, the objective, and you see this with Charlie Kirk, we can't have rational conversations happening because that will make people think. The socialists, the communists, and let's be honest, it could even be conservative. Look, go back to the Christians and their brutality. Go back to the Muslims, the Jewish people, the Hindus, whatever group had power. You think the caste system wasn't brutal to Lord knows how many people? We try to romanticize all these other cultures and countries, but let's be honest, there are a lot of people who suffered. Whoever's in power only wants the perceived intelligence to reflect what they want to get out there. And in contested zones, well, then it's about making sure that the people that are intelligent and could actually challenge your arguments are never allowed to speak. This is the same thing you saw in socialism. First, they start out with the propaganda to get all the different groups of people with them. Look up Rules for Radicals. Then basically, after they got that well enough, then they start sending their foot soldiers out to stop you from having a conversation. This is not a new thing. Not a new thing. But it's funny because it's new to a lot of people in this country. Because they, you talk to some of the people who grew up in Cuba or grew up in the former East Bloc, people that escaped the oppression. And they'll tell you exactly what's going on. Because they lived it from birth till when they escaped. They lived it. And still, even when they get to the new country, they're not sure what to think for a while. And they're like, wow, I'm actually free. No, they will try. The first thing they do with the intelligent people is they try to eliminate them. Because one, they can inform people. Two, they're a threat. And that's really it. And I often have said, the reason you were engineered in this country to waste your money, be frivolous, not learn how to think, you're going to order Uber Eats and all that stuff, is because if you become wealthy enough to have money to invest, then you can enter the game. You can become the investor. And eventually, you can become free of having to work for somebody else. You can become free of the system, freed from the real. Freed from, well, let's be honest, little GDP hamster wheel. And then your children might end up becoming leaders. But if you keep everybody generation after generation working to keep up with the Joneses and poor, well, that works out for the system. It's good for the conservatives. It's good for the Democrats. It's good for the elite. But make no mistake, whether it's right or left, the authoritarians of the world want you placid and uneducated. And I'm not saying education in the way of universities. I'm saying able to use common sense, able to listen to common sense. They want you to conform. And do you know the truth? Most people want to conform. They do. They want to conform. because it's easier than actually taking up positions that risk what they have. Say, you'll sell out your children's futures and your grandchildren's futures for comfort today. Freedomville, like, subscribe, take it easy.